Namaste. Welcome to the Conscious Convo podcast. I am your host and teacher, Pippa Leslie. I'm here to share everything I learn, see, and channel. This podcast is for the conscious and curious beings who are ready to dive deeper into spirituality. I am so grateful you are here. Hey guys, welcome back. So I'm here with another QHHT practitioner, John Mcluckie. He is in Australia and he actually lives in my favourite place in the whole wide world, Burleigh. Super jealous. But I am excited to talk to him today because he's a Libra like me, which is super cool. Libras are the best. And just to be able to talk to someone who is also a QHHT practitioner, I've interviewed a few people now in our work, and I love getting to know you and your journey with QHHT. So hi, John.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
Welcome.
And Burleigh is the best place in the world. If people out there haven't been to Burleigh, just Google it because it's beautiful.
Yeah, Burleigh Hill.
Beach, amazing.
Burleigh Hill, I just love going up that hill end of a morning when it's like not too hot. You just come around, you go, is it Talabudja Creek? And you go down and just round.
Yeah.
I love it.
My wife went there a couple of months ago and she saw a koala there with holding a little baby koala.
That's quite rare, isn't it, really?
Just out in nature, yeah.
Oh, God. I love koalas. Like the best. My mum said she came back as an animal. She come back as a koala. It just sleeps all day.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
What's your favourite animal in Australia?
Yeah. My favourite animal? I've got a thing for dolphins. I guess there's lots of whales over here. That are pretty cool. Lots of turtles. Yeah, I don't really have a favorite. I don't think.
Just super unique. I'm kind of just blown away because my listeners know that I'm in New Zealand and how different Australia and New Zealand is.
Oh, so different. What blew me away was the ladybirds over here. They have different coloured ladybirds. They got yellow ones and purple ones. Sometimes they go multicoloured. Yeah, it sort of blew me away because back at home in New Zealand, where I was born and raised, there was only red ones.
It's so crazy. You were born in the place I live in, and I really want to live where you live.
Yeah.
As in, like, I'd love to have a holiday home there. And it's weird because I always thought, like, Australia was where I'd feel at home the most. But since I got to New Zealand, because I'd never been to New Zealand until I emigrated here, bold move, it was obviously meant to be. I just feel definitely at home here. There's a lot of the UK here. Like, that's like, the greenery and just the nature here as well.
Yeah.
Do you miss New Zealand?
Very similar.
Do you miss it here?
No. I love my time there.
Yeah.
But I don't miss the weather. The weather here on the Gold Coast is superb.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We actually look forward to the winter here.
Yeah.
So,
to be honest,
which is really
I grew up in the UK, so New Zealand weather is amazing for me because winter days here were warmer than some of the summer days in the UK. And all the UK people just want to get away because of the weather. That's probably why all your ancestors moved from Scotland, because it's so cold.
100%.
Yeah.
Either that or they were being naughty and they went on those ships that sent them away, maybe.
I know the criminals got sent up. I'd be happy with that. If that was one of my past lives, I got sent over to Australia for being naughty, I'd be happy with that. Yeah. So
totally.
Talking about past lives, what are some of the past lives you've had?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I've had quite a few regressions because usually a lot of the times I'll jump on the group ones as well.
Yeah.
And just have my own experience. Usually it's me taking them, but sometimes I'll jump on somebody that's facilitating, so then I'll be the participant and just go on my own bewilderment. But one there's a couple that stick out. One was quite funny. I remember being here on Earth, and it was way back. It was like when men they were just going through they weren't Neanderthals, but they weren't that intelligent as well.
Yeah.
And there was 12 of us, and there was 9 that came down as men and 3 women. And my role was to help them build shelter. And so going from the caves into actually building the shelter and stuff. And the woman's role, the 3 women were coming behind us, and they were showing them how to seed plants and stuff like that. And we're all about 9 feet tall. And I remember the facilitator asking me, "Is there any significance to being that tall?" And I said, "Yes, that's because the humans respect us. Because if we went down to their same level, they wouldn't respect us."
Yeah.
And that's still the psyche today, actually. Like, a lot of people will respect somebody who's a lot taller than them because they're seen as an authoritarian for them. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then I remember getting so upset with the humans there because we'd finally finished everything and they were doing really well. And then one of them played with fire and stuff, and it burnt it down. And I was just like, just crazy. And then we rebuilt it. But we weren't living on the land. We were actually living in the water.
Yeah.
The 12 of us, which was interesting. Yeah. So we'd come up and we were living in a cave under the water. And then we'll come up and then we'd do our mission with the humans. And then at night we'd jump back in the cave and we'd have a debrief and all that sort of stuff. And then in the spare time, I'd go swimming with the dolphins and the whales and stuff like that. Yeah, have a really good time with them. And then on the last day, I remember just everything collapsing. Like there was earthquakes and fires and all sorts of stuff. And a lot of the 12 died there because they were up on there. And I jumped into the water, and I remember just floating there because I was really badly beaten up. And I remember a dolphin coming in and saving me. And then he took me deep into the water, and that's where I died. But the body was still there, and then I sort of popped out of the body, and that was the end of that session. So then in another session that I had, because that got me really curious, I was like, that just opened up a whole can of worms, you know?
Yeah.
So in that one, my intention was to find out what happened after it and where the hell did I come from, and fill in that part of the story. So then in another session, I started off leaving that body, and that was the beginning point. So then I remember just leaving that body, going out through the cloud, through the atmosphere. And I remember having all this information with me from what the humans did and how they evolved, and they did quite well. And I remember just taking that information and just chucking it into the cloud, into the Akashic records, just like, I'm out of here, because I didn't want anything to do with the humans. Like, I was like, I'm done. Bang, I'm out of here. And then so I went to this place, and we went to what I did there. And I was actually a teacher there. It was like a teaching role, and it was all these new souls, and none of them had been on Earth before. So it was quite an adventure for me to teach them what it was like on Earth. And it was so funny because I remember them. I remember one point, and I actually put my Earth suit on, and the students were just laughing so much at how ridiculous we looked, and because they were just light beings. And I remember them pointing to this thing here, and they were saying, "What's that?" And I said, "It's a mouth." And I said, "A mouth? What do you use a mouth for?" And I said, "That's what they speak with." And I said, "And that's what they eat with." And they were just laughing so much. So then what I did is I got them into a little human suit. So I got them into like little kids' bodies, like sort of 5 or 6 year old bodies, and they were jumping around, and they were like, whoa, whoa, and they were trying to speak because it was so hard to speak through this stupid thing called a mouth. It was just hilarious. It was so funny. And then we got a call, and it was what Dolores Cannon calls like a volunteer call.
Yeah.
So all the students put their hand up and they were so excited to go to Earth. They were just so excited to have this Earth adventure. And I remember just thinking, oh man. So I actually put my hand up just to go and keep an eye on them. Yeah. Which is really cool. Which was really, because I knew that most of them are going to really struggle. And a lot of people do struggle here on Earth. Like there's a lot of human beings that they just struggle here, you know.
It's the energies, isn't it? They just can't. Home. Yeah.
They just know that this isn't their home, but they don't know where home is. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. And it takes someone like us that can understand where they're coming from and the emotions that they're feeling and not judge them or criticize them or think that they're weird or anything like that. So we can go and actually go and have a good time in a session and go and explore that part of them. And we can find out, what are you actually doing here? Are you here for a purpose, or are you here for a reason? Or are you here just to have the experience and trying to fit in as much experience as you can? You know, we can really get to their plan of why they're actually down here. Yeah, so it's super cool.
It's super
so
cool.
That's two. I had one that was an imprint because I knew that it wasn't my life, but it meant a lot to me. And that was, I remember, because I'm very, I feel like I'm very balanced with the medical field and the natural healing field. I feel like we need to work together, whereas there's such a war, and you know the natural healers go, don't go down the medical route. No, medical route.
I agree.
Don't believe that. And I kind of wanted to explore where that comes from, because I'm lucky because I have a lot of doctors, a lot of psychiatrists, a lot of psychologists that refer to their patients to me to come in. And so I'm really, really blessed like that. I feel like I've earned a pretty good reputation.
Plus, you have that balanced thought, so you bring in that balance into your business, aren't you? Yeah.
So I wanted to explore where that came from. So this was just in one of the group ones. So I remember I was walking around the rocks, and I went into this cave, and I think it was my mother at that time, and she was dying, and I was a natural healer in that body, and I was trying to do everything that I could to heal her, and nothing was working. And then I saw another body come in to the cave, and that was when penicillin was just getting invented. And it was like a doctor, and he gave her penicillin, and I was just like, and it worked, and I was just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, that is so cool. And then what I did was, I actually hopped into that doctor's body as well. And he was saying, well, this is just new and we're just testing it, and the results are amazing. But he actually respected the other natural healer, because he said, sometimes this doesn't work and sometimes your method does work. And so there was a real mutual respect there. There wasn't no criticism. There wasn't any judgment. Yeah. And then, because it was quick group life one, so and then I sort of pulled out of it, and I was like, I got that now. That's where I see it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's like, even when people come into my sessions, sometimes their higher self will say, go down the chemo route, you know, just believe in it, and it works, and it works for them, you know. So I feel like I go against a lot of practitioners where they say, don't go down the medical, don't go down the chemo, don't go down this.
It's individual. It's up to the
them.
person.
It's their subconscious that knows. It's not the facilitator's ego that knows. Yeah. And then if they do what the subconscious says, well, then it's going to work. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, there's a few things that you said then, like the lies you mentioned about, you know, we got the call to go down to Earth. Have you seen the Disney movie Soul?
No, I haven't seen all of it.
Oh, you'll have to watch it. Yeah,
I understand it.
Yeah, it's when it came out, I watched it, and it's like, oh, I got really emotional, because like it makes sense. Like, it really does make sense. All these souls are like waiting, and then he talks about it, and they go in these different rooms, and the rooms give them personalities, and you're going to be like this and that. And so that was quite interesting. And when you mentioned Neolithic times, it's my birthday on Friday, and my stepchildren have bought me this Neolithic game, and it's got this like hammer, you know, like the old like Freddie Flintstone hammer thing, and it blows up, and you have to speak like old language, one syllable words. And if you say a two
Yeah.
syllable or three syllable, you get hit on the head. So it's so funny. Like we did the game on Saturday, and we're like, I want to. And I was laughing, saying to Chris, like, you know, in a past life, that's how they spoke, like, because cavemen used to go, and it went into words, and that's how language. Because I've always been fascinated with language and why is there so many languages over the world, and all the accents that we have. You know, it fascinates me. So doing the one syllable words, it's a great game, especially for like, you know, my 7-year-old stepson who, you know, he was like, "What's a syllable?" And he did really well. So it was great for that. So it's interesting how you can go that far back. Like I've had clients
totally,
drop down, and you know, I'm trying to figure out what they are, and they end up being just pure plasma before Earth was even created. You know, like, and they just move around, and they just went wherever they wanted to. I've had
just energy.
yeah, and it's just so interesting. And then I agree with what you say about the balance between the medical and the natural, because what we have on Earth right now is exactly what we're meant to have. I think everything that's happening in the world right now is divinely perfect. There's no shoulds and shouldn'ts. And my partner, he's science mind, but he's very spiritual. So he's got that, you know, he's got the dual, but that's the point. There's a duality in everything, isn't there? So you've got this medical and natural. I think what happens over time is it's that ego, isn't it? Well, I'm not natural, I'm medical, and the clash happens, and that's the same
It's
with
the
everything.
ego.
That's why there's war. That's what causes the war. It's instead of me saying to you, "Oh, John, you're a natural healer," or "Well, I'm a medic," you know, saying how beautiful is you bring your modality to the world. I bring my modality to the world. That's kind of like why I always applaud everybody for what they do, because everyone has a purpose and a unique blueprint, and it's to respect each other and just know we're all from the same. We're just here to have different.
Totally.
Yeah,
And it's about the client.
exactly.
It's about getting them better. If they're sick, it's about getting them better.
Not forcing you, you know, because like I said, I mean, one of my big spiritual teachers is Wayne Dyer. Like I just know his work inside and out. And
he's super cool.
no, he's like my favorite. And he says, I have a mind open to everything, attached to nothing. And that's what I say to clients. Like, don't have a fixed mindset on this is what I need to do and this is what's going to work. Try everything. Try it all. Why, you know, we're here to experience. And if you do think about it, medicine, it all comes from a plant, it all comes from a herb, it all comes from something. You know, it's you know, why were we given all that? We were chatting about this. We were looking at the stars last night. My partner's got a telescope, and we found Saturn, and you can see the shadow of Saturn, and you get on that deep conversation route then, don't you? Like, what's this? Why are we here? What's the meaning of life? And, you know, God gave us everything we need to survive on this planet, and medicine's been so progressive, and now we can fight infection. And I got bit by a spider.
It's amazing.
I got a whitetail spider bite 2 weeks ago.
I saw that, yeah.
So if I didn't have antibiotics, it could have been worse, you know, it could have spread. And I know horror stories of the Maori that say, you know, people had the limbs cut off because the you know, the whitetail bite would spread, and it's a flesh-eating bite. So
Can't stop it.
I sit there and I'm grateful. I was sat with the nurses in the medical because I've got a work visa here. So I just sat with them and said, you know how grateful I am that you do what you do. Like, you've just helped me so much. And you should see their faces. They're like, they expect people to moan and groan, where I'm here just
to criticize them.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you know how grateful I am that you're helping me? Like, I'm so blessed, thank you. And they're just like, oh. And it just, that makes me feel good. And that's what's wrong, not say wrong in the world. That's what's the issue in the world now is you don't believe what I believe, so that means you're different to me. And that again is the ego speaking, isn't it?
That's judgment.
Yeah. Like
just going back to that, Neanderthal story. I actually had one a couple of days ago.
Oh yeah.
It was so funny. So funny, yeah. I actually had to because they didn't speak that much. So sometimes when they're in the body, they're just grunting and groaning and so I actually pulled him out, and so he could see him, and I got him to sort of connect to him so he could think what the Neanderthal was thinking. And he was like, well, he ain't thinking much. He was just doing what he was doing, because he was just sitting by a lake, and he was just blank until a volcano went off, and he was like, oh, but he didn't know what it was, or he didn't know the danger or anything. Yeah, so he sort of got swallowed up in the end. Yeah, and it was just funny because when he said, oh, you know, he's just there, he's thinking, and it's just blank, and there's nothing in there, and I could hear some woman's voice, maybe it was Dolores or somebody, and I was like, well, some men haven't changed that much, have they?
Well, doesn't that kind of resonate with the thinking mind today? Like back then they hardly thought of anything, and now we're overthinking, we're in anxiety because we're overthinking of things we don't even need to think about.
It's gone the opposite way.
Yeah. Like the ego is the master storyteller. Like I say to clients all the time, and I know what they're thinking. Your mind's saying a story, and then I tell my clients to stop and ask, is it true? And they say no. So why are you giving it time? Why are you giving it space? Because it's just you're making it up to justify something.
You're wasting energy.
Yeah.
You're just wasting energy.
Yeah, it's funny how the ego has evolved, because it's just fascinating. It's like we've evolved the ego. It's like we've got so much in our faces now. We've got news, media, technology. Like it's just blinkers are constantly
stimulation
on.
overload.
Yeah, so I think like the ego's kind of ascended with that. Like it's not saying it's obviously ego has purpose, but back then, Neolithic times, all they had to do is wake up. It's like literally like they don't have to think of anything. They just it's like an animal. It's just programmed a certain way to survive, and just where us top
fully
of
in
the
the
food
present
chain.
moment.
Yeah.
Just
like there's a volcano.
It was just fully in the present moment. That's it. Yeah. And then it got swallowed up. It couldn't run away from it. So.
Well, I wonder if that's when we evolved then to obviously then the ego was the fight or flight. So we would see the volcano and know that was dangerous, run, that kind of, It's interesting how our evolution is, as my partner does a lot of conservation. So he does a lot for species in animal physiology and behavior. So, he knows a lot about animals, and when I did animal studies, behavior was my big one. Like even us as animals, we're behavior, aren't we? We have behaviors, and it's kind of like
that's my favorite subject.
Yeah,
my favorite subject in the whole world is human patterns and behaviors.
Yeah,
I find human beings fascinating.
Yeah, it's
and we're so simple.
Yeah,
when we break it
make
down,
it so
human
complex.
beings are so simple.
But then we make our own lives hard, complex, because it's like the self-wallowing, isn't it? It's like we're just trained to be in this, oh, poor me. But actually that doesn't serve. Like, I if I'm in a self-pity, I have to snap out of it. I'm like, right, just let's go out for a walk. Let's just go for a drive. And it's
you can feel sorry for yourself, but you don't want to wallow in there. You just want to have a moment, let it pass, and then go back. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
You're a human being, so
we're here to have this experience, aren't we? This human experience, even though sometimes I think, why did I come back for this life? Clearly I had lessons, but I'm just like, oh my God, why did I come back? But I think it's especially
it's an interesting time.
It is. Yeah. I was going to say, like, with the COVID just happening, and it's just, and all the awakenings that have just happened with COVID. Like I think COVID made us conscious. Like that's my kind of tagline for people, is like, even though it was such an awful time for the world, and it's been a lot of death, there's been a lot of grief and things like that. It's everything had divine order. Like people who died chose to die in that moment, because everyone's learning lessons, and everyone's.
That depends on what you choose to listen to as well.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to some statistic companies, they say there was actually the same amount of deaths as there always was the year before COVID and the year before that.
Yeah.
So.
But that's what I'm saying. But you think,
you
think. Yeah, that actually, thank you for that reminder, because I think like, I have that kind of, I wouldn't say fear, but that delicate energy around it, because I did lose friends to COVID, like older friends that did get COVID, totally, but I think like what you've just said, John, it makes sense. Like they're just showing you the statistics from what a piece of paper, which could have been wrong, and like you said, they were putting down these deaths were COVID, but they probably weren't. And but it's just that the basis is COVID coming into the world at this time, like the awakenings that have happened from COVID is it made people go within.
There's layers to it.
Yeah. How did it affect you? Like if it did, like in whatever
Not
way?
at all.
Yeah.
Not one bit.
I wasn't even scared of it.
We were so lucky here, especially on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have any. I think we had a lockdown, maybe once or twice for a few days or 3 days or something. But everybody just did their own normal thing. Everybody still went to the beach, and everybody just went out and got some fresh air. And it honestly, on the Gold Coast, it didn't really affect us at all, in any way at all. Life just went on as normal.
What do you think Dolores would have said if she was still alive about COVID?
I don't know, because I can't really speak for her.
No.
So I don't really
I always
know.
wonder, because I always say about Wayne Dyer, what would Wayne have said? And I think they would have just said it was all happening for a divine reason. It's like anything, isn't
just go with it.
Yeah.
If there's a storm coming, just stay inside and bail up the hatches and read a book and just wait for it to pass.
It's like we're looking to that, like the ego wants to be offended, doesn't it? It's like, oh, we've got this. How can we be offended today? It's like it's the default, isn't it, of the ego? Like it's for me, it's like I'm always pausing throughout my day, because especially us humans, we can be so judgmental of ourselves and others. And I remember Wayne on his last talk, because his last talk was in New Zealand, which was quite profound actually before he died. And I remember him saying, "I am light," I think it was. He said, someone said, I think someone asked him, was he rid of his ego? And he said no, because he'd be lying if he said yes. And he said in one of his talks, he was in Australia and someone had brought his meal out and it wasn't what he asked. And he caught himself like being a bit of a jerk to this guy. And he actually paused and just corrected himself. And he said this was a week ago, and obviously he died a week later. So it's like he was still working on his ego, and he's still working on, and that's the key. Like I say, there's this perfectionism in the air. Like I see it with a lot of clients when they come for hypnosis or whatever, they come for Reiki or whatever it is. They want the healing journey to be perfect. They want to be healed now. It's like the quick fix.
It's a journey.
And I said, you could be working on it till the day you die, but that's the whole point. It's the journey that you take on. Like I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago when I arrived here. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. But I think, listening to Wayne say that was profound. Like
it's the whole journey, yeah. Totally, 100%.
Have you always been spiritual?
Have
you always been spiritual since you were like younger, or was it kind of as you got later in life?
I'm always been curious. Yeah, I've always been curious. Yeah.
That's the Libra mind, I think, because I know a lot of Libra friends and they're all very curious.
Very curious and very open to everything and anything.
I was the type of kid that would ask 21 questions before 8 o'clock in the morning. My parents would be like, Pip, it's 8 o'clock and you've been awake for an hour and you haven't shut up. I'm still like that now. Though. I'm just always looking for answers. I was always asking about space. I was always asking about the universe. I was always asking about like everything. How does it work? What happens? What's in space? Are there aliens out there? My dad used to be like, well, I don't know, like, because he kind of like would try and, but he's now more curious as well, because my dad's always been into space and aliens and past lives. He's always been really curious, and it's nice that he can listen to some of my stuff now because he's been curious about it.
Yeah.
But would you say you've had like quantum moments in your life where you've just gone, well, that's profound and it completely changed you?
Yes.
Can you tell me about them? Just any of them?
Probably the most one that got me the most was when I first saw Dolores. That was when I was doing another class, learning just past life regression. And I know that the trainer, even the way that I got there was weird, because I wasn't supposed to do that class. I had no interest in past life regression at all, because I did my clinicals. I had my clinical practice before the past life stuff. But one of the people on the class that I did the clinical with, they told me that I have to do this, and I really trusted them. So I just had a complete blind faith, and I went in it and did it. And I think it was the second or the third day, because I know that the trainer had done the QHHT training with a lady called Dolores Cannon. I didn't know who Dolores was. I didn't even know what she would have looked like. And I kind of had heard of Brian Weiss, but I didn't know anything about him or anything like that. So I was very clinical minded. So then it was like the second or third day into it, and then for some reason, I've always followed my own intuition, and I sat right in front of the projector. There was a chair by itself right in front of the projector, and I just thought, that chair's for me. So I just sat in it, away from everybody else. And and then she did a tribute to the greats. So Dr. Brian Weiss came up, and there was a picture of him, and she was going blah blah blah. Dr. Brian Weiss, wrote many masters, many lives. He's a psychiatrist from Miami. And then the next one was Dr. Michael Newton, who wrote Journey to the Souls, and both those men are really beautiful men. And then next came on Dolores Cannon, and it was that picture there. And as soon as that picture came up, I just went, whoa. And in clinical hypnosis, we call it eye lock. And that's when somebody's staring at something and you can go like this, and they're just focused on it. Like that's what we call it, eye lock. But she got me bang instantly. And I could see, I've never seen auras or anything like that before. I've never seen them since, but I could see this really, really beautiful blue band around her, and it was all moving. It was sort of like just going like this, and then around that was a pure white one, and then around that one was this deep, deep blue one, and it was so beautiful, and it was huge, and I was just like, oh my God. But I could feel her, and I could feel her intention. I just went, oh man, she's got such a beautiful heart, this one. I could just feel her integrity, basically. And then I'll never forget this, because I heard something in my head, and it said that they didn't like me that much. They thought I was mean. And I was laughing on the inside, because I was like, who on earth could ever think that you're mean? Like, who could think that you're mean? And then she said, I just did what I did, and then I was out of there. And then the next person moved on, and I think it was Ed Casey or something like that. And so I actually asked the teacher, I sort of put my hand up and I said, you did the training with Dolores, didn't you? And she was like, yeah. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then she said, yeah, Dolores just did what she did, and then she was out of there. I was like, that's interesting. It was word for word for what I heard. And then she kept on, and then she was talking about something else, and then she came back to me and she goes, actually, there was a lot of us that thought she was quite mean. And I was like, and that got me, like I couldn't explain that at all. So that was just bang. Dolores got me there.
When I see Dolores and I hear her and I watch her videos or whatever it is, like I can imagine. I think Suzanne said this when I spoke to Suzanne. She said you'd walk in and she just owned the room. She just, I mean, like Wayne Dyer, people said that about Wayne Dyer and other people.
Yeah.
Just her presence alone, like, even
just it's their energy. It's
like the Masters, isn't it? It's like, it's the
It's their energy, yeah. It's
Yeah,
coming from inside them and it's radiating out of
it is. Yeah. And I was
them.
trying to visualize that. Like, imagine me just walking into a room and Dolores is doing a speech. You know, obviously I never got to meet her physically, but I can
All
imagine
right.
she's just got that. And you would just be so, we're actually going watching Eckhart Tolle next February, March. He's coming to Auckland, and
Yeah.
even him, like, watching him, he's just, even though like you wouldn't call them living masters, they're close enough to what we need in this day and age to take so much knowledge from them. And I think with Dolores, it was kind of like, for me, it was just that presence of yeah, like for example, she said, people think she's mean. Like, I don't think she's mean. She's just straight. She's powerful. She's empowered. She just says what she needs to say. It's like she's got that boundary in
What I
place.
found out, actually, what I found out, because I was talking to Julia about it, because I think it was in 2010. That was when she came to tour here, and that was when that trainer did the training with her. And what happened was, I'm not sure if it was 2010, but it was somewhere around there. But Dolores actually had just finished writing Convoluted Universe 4. And she had a couple of 100 pages that was, there was just too much of the book. And then something happened with Ozark Publishing, and they got the publishing date wrong. So they brought it forward too much, but they'd already announced it. So Dolores felt pressure to edit her own book and to cut those 200 pages. So what she was doing, and she did it on the Australian tour. So what she did was she had to go in there and teach, and then as soon as she finished teaching, she didn't have much time because she had to go straight back to her room and edit the book. So that's where the perception that some people thought that she didn't have time for them, because they thought that, oh, she's just gone back to the hotel room, or she doesn't care or anything. But she was just so busy.
Yeah.
She was just so busy, yeah.
Yeah, she was. Like,
So
don't forget though, she's got physical pulls on her, but then she had all the spiritual pulls on her. Like, she was always talking to the other beings and getting all the information. Like, I've not even like hardly read any of her books. I'm getting through some of them, and it's like she was such a knowledgeable lady, and she's spiritual too. So on a time out, you know what it's like when you got time out, you need that time of switching off because you are channeling all the time and you're getting downloads and information. And yeah, I just think, but like it's the same. It goes back to, everyone's cup of tea, and someone's always got something bad to say about someone. So, you can't make everyone happy, can you? You just got to be who you are. And the people who didn't resonate with her, she hasn't got time to even bother about that. And that's what really inspires me with people. Is I'm at that place now where I say to people happily, if you don't resonate with me, like I want you to go find someone you resonate with, because
totally,
I want you to
100%.
help yourself. I want you to help yourself. I want you to find the best. I've just had a lady tonight earlier on. I did a special offer for some just intuitive guidance readings. I pull some cards and I do healing. And she thought I was a psychic medium. So when I got on the call, I just said, I'm going to pull some cards and see what comes up. And if you need any healing, I'll send some healing. And I go with the flow. And she said, oh, I thought you were a psychic medium. I was like, I'll just send you money back and go spend it on a psychic medium. And she's like, are you sure? Is that not what, you're not bothered? I said, no. I said, it's not about the money for me. It's the energy exchange, but I want you to go and find the answers you're seeking that you wanted in the first place. And that's the point where you're at, is to be less offended, just to be at peace. Like, I just want that peace in my life. And, the prayer of St. Francis, make me an instrument of thy peace. Peace isn't something you just go and pick up. You just become peace. It's like any emotion. You just become it. You don't go and pick it up and hold it. It's like happiness, but you don't go and grab it. It's a feeling. It's a way of being.
It's not external. It's internal.
I know. And sometimes I just wish I could just get in someone's head and just go, and then it's like, for that's it's their journey, isn't it? It's for them to figure it out the way they need to figure it out.
That's what makes this so fun. The human experience.
Yeah, that's why I'm the same, like behavior and why humans are the way they are. Like, it's just, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
Totally. Humans are just sucked into what society tells them to think and how to feel and how to be. And
I'm very drawn to Egyptian history, and Yeah, I had a client last week. She went to a life where she was a part of the Library of Alexandria, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." Like, I love those types of lives. Like, I love all past lives, but then when they come through the ones that you really resonate with, and, even then, like, I thought to myself, back then, they were more in tune with themselves. They didn't really have they had the pharaoh, and they had, like, obviously to be in some sort of order, but people who lived on their own, like, kind of had their own freedom. They didn't have all the society kind of telling them what to do. They were more connected, I'd say, but it's like, now we've just got everything, haven't we? Just too much in our faces, with media and ego. Ego's like wild over the world, isn't it? That's what causes all the disputes and the wars.
Mm. Totally. 100%.
Did you when did you get into QHHT?
Um, I think it was 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was the other thing too. Because I didn't do the course for a while. I didn't take the level 1 course, but when I was hanging out the washing, that same voice. I don't know if it was Dolores's voice, but it sounded like her. But I hadn't watched any videos or anything of her. And it said, you you're going to do my course, so go and do it now. And it was really like now. So so that's when I signed up for it. I just signed up for it straight away, and I just binge watched it, and everything that she said, I just resonated with,
Yeah,
because
I'm the
she
same.
just
Yeah.
put all the pieces of the puzzle put together. Yeah. And then the following January was the level 2, and that's when I met Suzanne Spooner and Julia Cannon, Kaya Wittenberg, and I really felt at home with them. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but me and Suzanne got on like a house on fire, and I
Oh, she's
just
just brilliant. She's
absorbed.
just amazing, isn't she? Yeah.
Everything that she said, I just absorbed it. Yeah, and I'm really lucky because she really took me under her wing, and really taught me so much. But then when the level 3 came, because I didn't feel like I was ready, and I was talking to Suzanne probably 2 or 3 times a week at that stage, and I talked to her about it, and because it was in Byron Bay,
Mm-hmm.
which was only 40 minutes away from me, yeah, and so I actually went to the airport to pick up Kaya Wittenberg and Julia and all that sort of stuff. So I was so honoured. But then when I talked to Julia about it, because Kaya said, "Yeah, go for it," and Suzanne was like, "Yeah," sort of pretty casual, why not? Because I'd almost done enough sessions, but by the time it came, I would have done enough sessions. So so in that year, I'd done my 135 in the 12 months. But Julia said something really interesting. She said, "How long have you been doing this for?" And she said, "When did you take the level 1 class? Because you're not allowed to take the level 3 class unless you've been doing it for 12 months. And then when I look back on the date, I think it was something like the 17th of July or something, 2020. And then, so it must have been 2020. And then the level 3 was the same day, 17th of July, 2021, exactly the same. She said, "Well, isn't that funny?" She said, "Because if you would have taken it a day later, you wouldn't have been eligible to go in. You would have had to wait." So
Well,
that's why it was
divine
so
timing.
stern. It was so stern. It was like, you've got to do it now. But you don't know these things until you look back. And
Yeah.
then you can work out your intuition. And you're like, "Oh, okay, I got it now."
They're such good
So that was
feelings, though,
another
aren't
thing
they?
that just
Yeah.
blew my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine
Yeah.
was, I remember telling Suzanne this story, and she was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." She actually told Julia, because this is how Dolores works, as you mentioned. So I didn't really know much about Dolores at all. I'd heard of her in the spiritual world, but I'd not really looked into her a lot. partner was the same. He was very much into Brian Weiss and Michael Newton. My partner's loves past life regression, so he's had loads of different things, but he'd heard of Dolores but never really kind of looked into her a lot. And QHHT kept popping up on my newsfeed, and then my Reiki Master told me to read Jesus in the Essenes. I haven't actually read it yet, but I bought it. So she kind of was creeping in, and then QHHT was coming up all the time, and I was like, oh, and I love learning, so I was like, oh, and I remember being in Australia 3 years ago, and actually I was sat in Burleigh Beach, and I was listening to a past life podcast, and I was like, these past life regressionists and these hypnotherapists, what a wonderful job they could do. I could never do that. It's such a hard thing to do. I don't think I could ever do that. Just me thinking out loud. I'll stick to my healing. And then it was last year, I was separated from my partner because of COVID, and I was kind of doing a lot of healing. And so I was kind of channeling and meditating. And I was like, where am I supposed to go next? Just let me know where I'm supposed to go next. Just, and then my partner every night when he goes, I keep pointing there because there's a picture of him on the wall. There's he meditates when he goes to sleep, and he goes through a spiritual door, and he kind of just sees who sat there. And he just said he woke up the next day, and this was like October, November last year. He said, you won't believe what happened last night, because obviously the time difference. I said, no, what? He said, I went through the spiritual door, and it wasn't Wayne, it wasn't my dad, it wasn't my guides, it was this little old lady. She's just on this bench. And he said, and she was like eating mints. And she just said, I'm Dolores Cannon, and you need to read my Convoluted Universe book 1. And Chris had never heard of Convoluted Universe. So she gave him a specific book to read, and talking about, he told her the year she was born, the year she died. He looked it up the next morning. He was like, this is so profound. What the hell? But it was like the day after I'd asked the universe for a sign and a message. So Chris told me that, and I said, are you joking? I was like, she's just literally confirmed to me that she wants me to do the course. So that was kind of really interesting, because he'd never heard of her. So when he typed in Convoluted Universe the next day, he's like, so he's on book 3 now, but he just said to give me a specific book to read from channeling was pretty profound. So I remember telling Suzanne that.
You can't deny it.
She loved it. Yeah. She's like, oh, that's wonderful. That's how she comes through. I said, I know. So that was how I really got into it. And same as you, I've not met any of you guys in person. When I've watched your stories and I've watched your videos and your posts, I feel at home. I feel like I'm a part of the community, and I feel like it's, we all made contracts, didn't we, before we came to Earth, that we're all going to do this QHHT. And I do think Dolores, it's so busy right now, and it's so, because I think Dolores is pushing people to QHHT, as in more people are doing it because of, again, COVID and this awakening state that we're in. And there's a lot of healing going on. There's a lot of trauma healing going on, exploration going on. And that's what we're here to do, isn't it? That's why there's more of us sign up to do our levels and things.
That's why I love Dolores. Yeah. She's like, all the answers are in.
Yeah.
They're all in. They're all within you. Yeah. Nobody knows yourself like you.
Yeah.
Don't ask yourself.
It's so interesting when someone comes here for a healing or intuitive guidance session, even if it's online, in person, whatever, I say to them, as soon as I sit down, this is my little declaration for you. My hope is that you don't need to come back to see me for guidance or healing, because you have everything within you to do that. And they're like, what? I think they just think, that's a weird thing to say, but I'm like, no, because my hope for you is that you walk away and you have the confidence and the great, come for a healing. It feels great. You can switch off for an hour and it's lovely. And getting the guidance off someone, sometimes you need different perspectives, and I'm happy to do that. But, that is my wish and hope for you, that you can just go away and listen to your own intuition, and getting confirmed answers from someone else means you doubt your own intuition. So, it's trusting your own intuition and trusting yourself.
Totally, 100%.
And we're not healing. I say, I'm not healing you. I said, you're coming here for healing. I'm not healing you. I'm holding the space for you to heal. I'm the facilitator. And they're like, oh, yeah. So it's... Yeah.
We don't have that power, sorry.
For myself, I can heal myself. But I'm just holding that space for you to be able to just open that doorway for you. Past life regression is me just going, da. Here's the doorway. Here's the cloud. You come off. Go and do what you need to do. I'll just guide you through it. And then people come away and they go, I didn't expect that. God, what I saw was just unreal, and it lights me up. After a session when we're talking, And then it's funny, every client will text me that night or the day after and say, I've Googled such a thing, and this is this, and that makes sense with this. And now I know why that's happening. And I love it. I say to them, if any insight comes through when you listen to a recording, please message me, because I love it when they kind of piece things together with like history, when they're trying to pinpoint things. So again, with you, like I just feel honored to be able to be a part of it.
Totally. The biggest thing is finding a facilitator that the client resonates with as well.
That's key.
That's the biggest thing, yeah.
And a lot of people have said to me, which I'm learning level 2, which has been really like a nice little like pat on the back for me, is what I'm learning level 2 is about, you know, Julie was talking about a lot of the healing happens in the interview, and it's such an important part, which I love the interview. Like, I love the hypnosis, but my favorite part is the interview. Like, I love getting to know someone. I love listening to the story, and I can pinpoint everything in my head, but obviously I don't tell them because that's for them to do. And I give little clues and little subliminals, like, you know how great you're doing? Like, oh my God, like you've come this far in 2 years. Like, oh, and I love that question. You're going to leave here today completely healed. What are you going to do the rest of your life? And they're like, oh, well, and it's just like, it's such a big question, isn't it? And like, people have actually said to me, yeah, people have said to me, like when they've left and they've kind of sat with it and they've, you know, listened to a record, and they've said to me, I was already healed before I went into the hypnosis, like just talking it out with you and not, you know, being able to just have someone to listen, sacredly listen and hold that space. Because I've had a couple of clients say to me, and this is not to diss counselors or psychotherapists, like I've got loads of friends who do that. They just said to me, I've got more out of this one day than I did in 6 months of counseling. And that makes me feel good. But I'm also like, that's how powerful the technique is.
And it's simple. So simple.
I'm so grateful. I know. So last 3 questions for you, because I could stay on for a lot longer and talk to you, but I know it's getting late. So if you had a magic wand, how would you use it to save our world?
What makes you think that the world needs to be saved?
I knew you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say something like, we don't need a magic wand to save the world because it doesn't need saving. It's as it's meant to be. And that's the answer I would give if someone asked me that. But it's great to have people's, you know, unique answers. But that's what you've just said is what I would say. You know, I obviously it's nice to have different things that people would use their wand for, but that again is your uniqueness, and that's why I asked the question: is that everyone's got a unique purpose to help the planet heal.
If I had a wand, I'd use it to scratch my back where I can't itch it, where I can't get to it.
Love it. I just knew you were going to say something like that. So the second question is, what are 3 things people can do right now to raise their consciousness?
One, Louise Hay's all-time favorite thing. Love Louise Hay. She's my all-time idol. Never, ever, 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 ever criticize yourself. Ever. Just stop it. Never criticize yourself. Don't judge others. 2, she said, if you can do number 1, you don't have to do anything else, because everything else will just fall into place.
Yeah.
2, she said, stop scaring yourself. That means stop making up those stories. Just stop it. Yeah, because they're only stories. Your body's going to do that. 3, just relax. Simplify your life. If your life is all crazy and it's because you're making it crazy and it's going, that means that you've complicated your life. Simplify it.
Yeah.
The happiest people in the world are the most simple people. You look at even Wayne Dyer, very simple man. Very busy man, but very simple man. Dolores Cannon, very simple. All of the greats. It's one of the only things that they have in common. They've got lots of compassion, but their life is actually very, very simple, because they've dealt with all the trauma, and they've chosen not to overcomplicate it.
Yeah. And there's nothing for my listeners, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, it's just moving through the trauma. There was never ever anything wrong with you, ever.
Totally. And be very careful in the voices that you hear in your head, because if they're negative, or if they're critical, or if they're something else, those aren't actually your voices.
Yeah.
They might be your dad's or your mum's or your brothers or your school teachers or something like that. Get rid of those ones, because your inner self will never talk to you like that, ever.
Love those. Yeah. Simple. Third question was a surprise question. If you had the whole world at your attention right now, what would you say to them?
The whole world. What would I say? Good question. I'd say go out and get an ice cream and just relax. It's all good.
Yeah, no. It's quite interesting though. You think about
and say hello to the person next to you. Yeah.
Just I love.
Is that too basic?
No, honestly, it's not. No, it's simple, basics, what people need. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Just go out and do what you love. Like,
totally.
Yeah, it's funny. I ask those 3 questions to everyone. And it's just, I love every answer is completely different. Like, every past life's different. Like, every client's different. Like, that's the whole point. That's why I ask those questions, because we're all unique. We're all beautiful. We're all from the same. We all come from the same. We all return to the same. But we're all here to experience life differently. And
we're all the same. Every human being innately in their heart space is all the same. Yeah. We all just want to feel safe. We all want to be loved, and we want to be nurtured and cared for. And that's basically it. And healthy.
Yeah.
And that's basically
the basics.
That's the core of every single human being on earth.
Reminds me of the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, it's like, that is a simple hierarchy, you know. Self-actualization. It's just self-actualization is obviously enlightenment, but it's just peace, and just knowing that it's like when you get to your deathbed, you're not going to worry about all the crap you're worrying about when you're 30, 40, 50.
That's a really good I was talking to Suzanne Sprinter a couple of nights ago, actually. Yeah. Just about because one guy went into his future and his current life. Yeah. And on his deathbed, and just looking back at the regrets that he had. But sometimes that can be a good game to play, and just go in there yourself and look back, because you've still got time. You've still got time to change things and to adapt things.
Yeah, I do that with clients a lot. I do future self meditations, and so profound.
Yeah.
So profound.
Start creating. Well, what do you want in your life then?
Yeah. It's like I stopped worrying and stopped fantasizing and stopped, obviously not fantasizing, but I just stopped worrying, and everything just flows to me without even having to think about it. I just say to the universe, please send me some clients to help. Done. It's just you just surrender and let go. It's like, you know, I'm still on the journey. I'm 32 on Friday, so I think I'm pretty wise for my age, but I keep thinking to myself, God, where am I going to be in 20 years? Oh, what a wonderful woman I'm going to be, like full of more knowledge. But then who knows?
Who knows? That's the fun of it. Who knows?
Just today, 26th of September, is where I need to be. Talking to John in Australia, who lives in Burleigh. What a great conversation we had.
How lucky am I?
Yeah.
I'm super lucky.
Like, just, you're so blessed. I say this to everybody. Do you know how blessed you are? Like, how blessed you are? Like, just are.
That's even my that's my discount code on the class, is blessed, because that's how I feel.
Yeah.
So blessed. Yeah.
I know.
And then, like Wayne Dyer, you know, if you come from gratitude and you feel blessed and you're actually happy with whatever you have, then the universe loves that and it responds to it, so it's going to give you more. Whereas if you criticize the universe and, you know, why is this well, then
You're not in a harmony.
It goes the other way. It's you're going to start attracting that even more. And then your activating system in here is going to be locked into it. So you're actually going to find more and more and more evidence of it.
Well, I feel very blessed. I'm going to go to sleep very blessed and very happy and even more grateful. I've been in gratitude. Like, I'm in gratitude every day. I find gratitude for everything, even in the delays and the traffic jams and something that you'd have, I always think if there's something that happens in your day that makes you want to moan about it, don't. Be grateful for it. See, as Wayne was talking about the 9/11 survivors on his podcast, saying all the people who survived it because they were in traffic, missed a bus, missed a train, kids were running late,
totally.
someone got
sick.
Yeah. So when I say to my clients, whenever you're in a traffic jam or your kids are running late, driving you mad because they're not getting changed, blah 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 blah, just go, divine intervention, it's happening for me. Just sit in it, be blessed, feel blessed. Yeah,
it's just part of the crazy experience.
It is, yeah.
And it'll be over before we even know it.
Yeah, no. So enjoy the ride. So I have loved talking to you today, and I hope everyone listening feels blessed and at peace and a bit more blissful after this conversation, because I do.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks, John. I hope you all enjoyed it, guys. And if you did, let us know. Share it with your friends and family. And if you get 5 minutes, just leave a 5-star review. I'd really appreciate it. But if you want to reach out to John, if you're in the Gold Coast area, give him a shout. And I'll put your links in the show notes so people can find you on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, cool. I've got a couple of full-length sessions on my YouTube channel, and I've got lots of little clips, so sort of 15 or 17-minute ones. Yeah, lots of funny ones and really interesting ones. Yeah.
Well, thanks, John. Thanks everyone for listening, and we hope you're having a blessed day wherever you are in the world. Take care, guys.